Used to be a lot of traffic when before I was elected president. Now I notice was in the road there's no traffic.
It's miraculous. It's miraculous.
But should lose why backing up traffic in our lanes.
President Biden, is it satisfying to see that video, to see how wrong Orange Julius Caesar was about the presidency?
Well, I could have done nothing and done better than he was doing.
I did a lot of things. And since we're here, we might as well go through some of them. Here are a few other things you accomplished that Bill Dumbass wasn't able to do. You expanded the Affordable Care Act, you passed bipartisan gun legislation.
Yeah!
Just with the drug prices.
Yeah!
You keep it on cannabis. You help make it on the kind of birth control pill acceptance.
Yeah!
Infrastructure deal. You spend all you drastically release student debt and becoming 6 turkeys, one of whom we know for sure was Crane. Not bad for Sleepy Joe.
Yeah! Yeah!
Well, Kimmel, which of these accomplishments would you say you're most proud of?
You know, when I was president's vice president, we talked about how to make the middle class have a shot, better shot. My dad used to have an expression said, Joey, paychecks a lot more than the amount of money being paid. It's about dignity, it's about respect. And what we've done, we've changed the model from trickle-down economics to middle out, the bottom up, because that way everybody gets a shot. And I think it's working. We have the strongest economy in the world today. That's not going to better. You know, what we tried to do from the beginning, and it's a follow-on from when I was vice president, we tried to give ordinary people even a chance, just a chance. Everybody has a chance, and that's what's happening. And guess what? It's growing. The economy's growing. People do better. We have the highest unemployment, the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. We have more people. We've had over 15 million people brand new hiring the workforce. You know, my son says, we all have various short-term descriptions for the jobs, for what you accomplished. And he should say Joe Jobs, because it's about jobs, about giving people a shot. If you give them a shot, they never let you
President Obama, are there things that President Biden achieved that you wish you had?
Absolutely. Well, the list that you just put forward, that is the kind of thing that we've been fighting for 4 years.
You started it all.
Well,
Yeah!
I've talked about this before. At its best, the presidency is a relay race, right? You take the baton and you run the race, and so we get the Affordable Care Act started. But we knew at the time that even though 20 million people were getting health insurance from it who didn't have it before, there were still some people who were having trouble affording it because we couldn't fund all the subsidies that a lot of people needed. Joe comes in, boosts some of the subsidies, and that means millions more people are able to access health.
That's right.
National security. On climate change, we fund clean energy at record levels when we first came into office, Joe and I together. We move forward in terms of making sure that fuel efficiency standards on cars have changed. We get the Paris Accords done, but that's not enough to deal with the size and scope of the challenges that we face. Joe comes in, makes historic investments in clean energy. So
That's right.
I take great pride in what the Biden administration has accomplished, and it's a reminder that we don't have to just vote against something in this election. We have somebody to worry about, and there's a whole agenda that we should be concerned about. But we can take pride in affirming the extraordinary work that Joe has done.
Well, who wants to stay where you really got that, and then tell us you want to do it for it. That was going to be the one to make good before this has been made.
You know, a lot of things Mike Ferguson on, the whole idea that we couldn't get anything done. When I ran the first time, I said I was running for 3 reasons: to restore the soul of America, to rebuild the middle class, and to bring the country together. We've passed every major piece of legislation we attempted to get done.
That's right.
You want to talk about that because you did say that you were fighting to restore the soul of America. Lately, it seems like we might need an exorcism. Is that like visiting the Pope?
Look, the truth is that the way in which we communicate with people these days, there's so much opportunity to just lie and come across as if you have a source, just one source you go to, and for your news, it's just easy to convince people that that's the only truth that's out there. The fact of the matter is, we have to make sure that we get the message out, and that's what we're doing. I just came back from what they call the G7, all the European countries. And we're in a situation where I promise you, not because of me, but because of America, they have enormous faith in America. Enormous faith in America. And not really moving. We have to keep in mind, there's not a damn thing we can't do. We set our mind to do it and do it together. Now, see what's out there.
Is the country suffering from what they call Trump amnesia? I mean, why do so many Americans seem to remember the Trump administration the same way we do a colonoscopy? Like we don't have that.
Well, all we gotta do is remember what it was like, what he did remember the pandemic? He said, don't worry, just inject a little bleach in it.
That was for me, by the way. I do want
By the way, it worked for him to comb his hair. Very silly school. The fact is that, we had over 1 million people die.
Yeah.
Die. For every person who died, all the data shows that 8 people are left behind, 8 people with consequence. That profound negative impact on the economy, profound negative impact on the attitudes of America. We're just getting out of it. And one of the things we did was, I'm very proud, we brought an end to the pandemic. We're continuing to move in healthcare. There are more people destroyed now than any time in American history.
That's right.
So there's an awful lot we've done. For example, I get criticized for debt forgiveness for 45 million people. Well, guess what? These are people who continue to work for the country. They're social workers, the police officers, all those folks who worked 10 years. And when the Supreme Court said, no, you can't forgive the debt, then I went back and looked at what existed that wasn't being used. And they said if you engage in 10 years of paying your debt back, and you in fact are doing socially positive things, and they define from police officers to school teachers, you can have your debt forgiven after 10 years. Well, guess what? It cost the economy, it's good the economy. It does the economy.
Yeah, that's right, Joe.
There's so many possibilities we have. And the next 4, anyway.
What you have to really remember about the Trump years is that we ran out of toilet paper. He promised to make America great again, and the next thing you know, we are wiping ourselves with envelopes.
Well, I tell you, is that how you handle it, Jimmy?
It was wrong. Big Emily, too. Was
Look, we've never seen administration. Look, he's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who lost more jobs than he started off with when he became president. He increased the national debt by $1 trillion. he provided a $2 trillion tax cut to the super wealthy, which just did nothing but increase the debt and very little impact on ordinary people. Their ability to, function and grow. I didn't see anything he's done that hasn't been centered on what is good from his perspective for him. And, but look, we got a lot of work.
Yeah, what do you say to, and there are many people in this situation, a lifelong Republican who doesn't want to vote for Donald Trump, but cannot imagine voting for a Democrat.
Well, look, I think part of what has happened over the last several years is we normalized behavior that used to be disqualified. We have the spectacle of the nominee of one of the two major parties sitting in court and being convicted by a jury of his peers on 34 counts. You have his foundation is not allowed to operate because it was engaging in monkey business and not actually philanthropic. You have his organization being prosecuted for not paying taxes. Set aside all the other stuff he says.
He paid no.
And what I would say, and what I do say to a bunch of the people out there who are conservatively predisposed, who may not agree with everything that Joe or I or other Democrats stand for, is that there was a time when we had certain core values that we agreed, that we believed in basic honesty. We believed in paying your taxes. We believed in making sure that we didn't make fun of POWs, that we did not try to politicize our military, that we respected the ballot. And, I do think that when we're talking to people who may not agree with every aspect of the Democratic agenda, and by the way, what will Rodgers say about Democrats? We're not a member of an organized political party, we're Democrats. We have a lot of differences in our own party, and that's healthy. But there are certain standards and values as Americans that we should all abide by. Joe Biden has stood for those values and continues to, and the other guy doesn't. And that, in and of itself, is something that we can't ignore or pretend it's a difference that doesn't exist.
Jimmy, look, remember when I got elected, I said, we're going to anything major pass. We passed a bill relating to the environment that provided for $368 billion. We got bipartisan support to get it done. I found ourselves in a position that veterans were not getting rewarded for what the pain they undertook. And so we were able to pass the Factba. There were many veterans exposed when you talk about Kimmel to get coverage for Agent Orange and all the thing my son died from being exposed to a burn pit from here in Iraq. Well, guess what? We got it passed, we got support from the Republicans, and guess what? Everywhere, million veterans now, and their families are being taken care of. The only ones that can
Who are those Republicans who are trying to figure out what to do with this next election and are concerned, for example, about challenges at the border and immigration? It turns out that there was a bipartisan solution to help create a more orderly border and a more lawful system of immigration that the nominee of the other party decided to tank because he wanted it as an issue in this next election rather than actually solve the problem.
Yep.
And that kind of game and no, don't move, vote. But that's the good example of the kind of work that the Biden administration has been willing to engage in, which is to work with those who are willing to work on behalf of improving the quality of life of the American people, and that's what you should expect from your president.
That's right.
I fought, as did Barack when he was a senator, to take on Big Pharma. They were significantly overcharging people for prescription drugs. I can take you on Air Force One, you have a prescription. I can fly you to any major capital in the world and get you that prescription for 40 to 60% less than we pay here. And so what we did, we finally beat them. We finally got to the point where, for example, those of you who know someone has diabetes and needs the insulin, it used to cost average $400 a month, and now costs $35.
Thank you, Joe.
Because what it's already passed the law, they tried to repeal it again, but it's already passed. Another provision is beginning next calendar year. No senior will be in a position where they have, no matter how many prescription bills they have, they'll never have to pay more than $2,000 a year because prescription drugs now for schools should cost $10,000 to $12,000. The point being that there's so much progress we've made, he wants to get rid of it all. He just doesn't seem to care about what happens to ordinary people.
I would love to go on that trip with you on Air Force One.
I was worried that Jimmy was going to try to take you up to the top.
I mean, my prescription drugs in different countries. I mean, that's what they.
Oh no, it sounds funny, but it's true. It's literally true.
Great.
Literally true. So jump on board.
It's going to be a great travel show.
How many things in 9 times?
I do want to talk about the Affordable Care Act and what an incredible achievement and how grateful so many people are to our son had open heart surgery, 3 of them, and these lifetime caps that these pre-existing conditions that these insurance companies put on people who buy insurance from them are something that I feel like almost 100% of Americans agree are crazy.
I think they do.
I think they do too, and I think when they see it in practice, when it's their neighbor or their child or someone who is close to them or someone they work with, then it becomes real to them. And yet, you hear every Republican believes, at least states publicly, that they want to do away with this Affordable Care Act that you, President Obama, started and then you, President Biden, expanded. Why do they want to get rid of such a popular program? Wouldn't it be, in a way, would they be hurting themselves politically if they did?
Well, I don't know if they screwed that up, but would be hurting the nation significantly. Look, there are millions of people who have a pre-existing condition who would not be able to get any coverage were it not for the fact this guy started.
That's right.
And I was able to expand them. They save another $8,000, $800 a year for them. But here's the deal. The fact is that these guys don't seem to care. They somehow, by the way, it's saving the country money. It's not wasting money. All the cost of this, well, it's about, I guess, 40 million people would be affected.
Millions of people will be affected. And the reason that the Republicans say they're opposed to it is because we did. Which, sounds like it's sort of a bad
Name on it. Add your name on it.
Yeah, which I never minded, I have to say. I was like, I'm happy to call it Obamacare. What do you think? I didn't really understand how that was an insult, but listen, there's a reason why they didn't actually get rid of it.
What?
Because they don't have anything to replace it with.
That's right.
They don't. But this is the kind of phony, performative politics that has become the currency these days. And You, Jimmy, like so many families all across the country, understand that at some point politics is not just a performance. It's not just who wins, who gets the spoils. At its best, politics at some point is how we come together to actually solve problems. And these are personal problems.
Exactly.
This is a child being able to grow up. This is somebody not losing their house when they get sick. There are moments where we say, all right, we go to an election, somebody wins, somebody loses, although that too, apparently, it is being. And then we get to the business of actually trying to get something done for the people who sent us there. That's what Joe Biden has consistently done. He goes about his business. He tries to deliver for the people he put him into office and gave them this extraordinary privilege, which is why now that we're at the next election, we've got to make sure that everybody out there is working just as hard to sustain the progress that's already made.
That's right.
The second time, when I originally dealt with taking on big farmland, I cut the price, for instance, for example, for everybody. Republicans gathered the votes to knock out. They couldn't stop me from getting the for elderly, but they knocked out everybody else. Barack, I'm coming back next year. I'm going to be available to everybody.
That's right. Yeah.
I think every time he was focusing on surgery, President Biden, he was very nice to send a letter, a card, and a little stuffed commander dog to Billy, which he loved very much. He thinks he's very special. Unfortunately, little commander bit Billy's toe off. For health care, which thanks to President Obama.
Fortunately, he's covered.
He is covered. So thank you and boots, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it's been almost 2 years since the largely Trump-appointed justices of the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade.
Boo!
They're not boo, they're saying Roe. These threats to abortion rights, to women's rights, to even to birth control and IVF are not in our liberal imaginations anymore. They're very real. And these decisions, these very personal, intimate decisions are now being made by 9 unelected judges, one of whom flies his flag upside down. The other one of the others drives around in a $267,000 gift on vacations. And I think we are all wondering, what can we do about this?
Collectively, again, I'll tell you what, hold on, I'm not just saying. The next president is likely to have 2 new Supreme Court nominees. 2 more. 2 more. He's already appointed 2 that have been very negative in terms of the rights of individuals. The idea that if he's reelected, he's going to appoint 2 more flying flags upside down is really, I really mean it.
Could this be the scariest part of all of it?
Well, I think it is one of the scariest parts. Look, the Supreme Court has never been as out of kilter as it is today. I mean, never. I taught constitutional law for 9 years. This guy knows more about it than most. Look, the fact of the matter is that this has never been a court that's been this far out of step. And by the way, when we said after the decision that overruled Roe v. Wade, the Dobbs decision, you had Clarence Thomas talking about the fact that there are going to be other things we should reconsider, including in vitro fertilization, including contraception, including all these things.
Including gay rights.
And they're going, by the way, gay rights. Oh, by the way, not on my watch.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill.
I want to just emphasize this point. At the end of the day, the power of the Supreme Court is determined by appointments. It is determined by elections. And so, what we're seeing now is a byproduct of, in 2016, there were a whole bunch of folks who, for whatever reason, sat out. They said, well, we're not enthusiastic enough. We're not feeling inspired enough. Why bother? And hopefully we have learned our lessons, because these elections matter in very minute ways. And we're now seeing how much it matters when it comes to the Supreme Court.
There's so many crazy things. Why does it seem like so many people are embracing conspiracy theories over facts? So 20 years ago, if you said JFK was coming back from the dead to reclaim the White House, they'd lock you in an asylum. Now you get a podcast network out. Why is this happening?
Well, look, there are no evidence anymore. One of the things, I'm not blaming the press is being victimized as well. You have a circumstance where, think about it, where do you have a significantly fewer number of people reading mainstream press. Most people get their news from some site on the internet. So much of it on the internet is absolutely a flat out lie. And it's hard for people to get what the facts are. It's hard for people to discern it. There's nobody, and there's no editors at all saying, you can't say that, it's not true. There used to be a lot more of that existed. So it's just much easier to just flat out lie, number one. Number two, there was a recent study done by the New York Times about their polling data. It shows that, as I remember it, just the last couple of days, that the significant number of people, the people who voted the last two times voted on a regular basis, we're winning by somewhere between 10 and 14 points. For those people who haven't voted, and they haven't voted at all, it gets down to a couple point lead. The point is that it matters, it's hard to poll anymore as well. You know, you have to make, I don't know what it is, 36 or 40 calls to get one person to respond. No, hardly anybody has hard lines anymore. It's all on cell phones. So
You're blaming caller ID for this.
well, what I'm blaming is the failure of us to be able to organize in a way that allows us to get a clear picture of what people are thinking. And that's understandable. But here's the bottom line. For me, the one reason to be president of the United States, to do what I believe. My father used to say, you have to be a man of conviction and do what you said. And so I'm going to say, I've laid out exactly what I'll do. And if you can walk it, that's fine. If there's no point that I know is a testament to the people.
Especially when Father's Day tomorrow. My father is here, and the only thing he ever really told me, and from an advice standpoint, is when in doubt, order a hamburger.
That's pretty good advice.
My father would say 3 or 4 things. My dad was a really good man.